For all the marvels we've built in the modern age, there's something unshakably humbling about what the ancient world left behind. We like to think we're the smartest humans to ever walk the earth, armed with satellites, AI, and nuclear weapons. But then, you come across an artifact from 4,000 years ago that makes you stop and say, how the hell did they even do that? These ancient relics don't just whisper stories from the past, they scream genius, mystery, and forgotten worlds. So buckle up. These are the 15 most incredible ancient artifact finds. Number 15, Scythian bongs. From the 9th century BC to around the 4th century AD, if you were riding across the windswept steppes of Central Eurasia, you'd probably cross paths with the Scythians. These nomadic guys lived hard, fought harder, and left behind traces of a culture far more complex than they're usually given credit for. They weren't just warriors on horseback, they had rituals, beliefs, and they had a bad habit like Snoop Dogg. At an archaeological site in southern Russia, researchers uncovered something unexpected, a pair of solid gold bongs dating back around 2,400 years. They weren't ornamental. Inside, scientists found residue from both cannabis and opium. These dudes had been smoking them. Ancient historians had written about these kinds of customs, describing how Scythians would gather in tents, burn herbs, and sit in the smoke until they were visibly altered. Some even made teas that would produce similar effects. It wasn't about getting high, it was about ceremony, escape, maybe even connection to something bigger. In a world where survival meant constant movement and war, these bongs offered a rare glimpse into how the Scythians processed their world, and sometimes maybe just needed to drift a little. Number 14. The Armillary Sphere. There is no name or logo carved into it, and no single civilization on Earth can claim it. But the Armillary Sphere, made up of intersecting rings tracking celestial motion, stands as one of the oldest tools for mapping the stars. Some say it began in ancient Greece, maybe from the mind of Anaximander, over 2,500 years ago. Others believe it predates him, just passed down without credit. Either way, it wasn't just a fancy thing. It showed the positions of the sun, the moon, the known planets, and their expected paths through the sky. Every ring had purpose. Each rotation gave information about timing, location, and prediction. You didn't just look at the stars. You read them through this. Even if early astronomers thought Earth sat at the center, the sphere gave them a framework to ask bigger questions. Not just when and where things moved, but why. Today, versions of the Armillary Sphere sit in museums, their purpose mostly lost to time. But the message remains: people were watching the sky long before telescopes ever existed. Number 13. Book of Kells. This 4-volume gospel book from the 9th century is Ireland's most famous medieval manuscript, and for good reason. Its richly decorated illuminations and flawless calligraphy have captivated generations. Every page is filled with illustrations of people, animals, mythical beasts, and intricate Celtic knots that seem to weave entire stories on their own. Scientists get excited about discoveries like this because they uncover lost fragments of human life. Things that were once useful, cherished, or sacred, forgotten, buried, and then suddenly pulled back into light. It's strange to think we build cities on top of older cities, only to dig through them again hunting for ruins, or maybe just someone's lost shoe. Dr. Brian L. Hackett puts it plainly: some things are lost like a set of keys. Others are hidden on purpose, then never found again. Over time, every object slips from value to neglect. That's the window where artifacts vanish, and centuries later, they're dug up as clues to who we once were. Number 12. The Narmer pallet. The Narmer pallet was discovered in Hierakonpolis, now known as Nekon, and is believed to date back to around 3100 BC. This ceremonial slate pallet commemorates the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the rule of King Narmer, also called Menes. That unification wasn't just a political event, it was the beginning of centralized Egyptian power and the rise of the pharaonic civilization. The carved reliefs show Narmer wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt on one side and the red crown of Lower Egypt on the other, a deliberate symbol of unity. These images do more than honor a ruler. They record one of the earliest moments of national identity in human history. The Narmer pallet still stands as a milestone, offering a direct visual link to the roots of ancient Egypt's power. Through its details, it reveals how early leaders used art, symbolism, and ritual to cement their rule and shape the future. Number 11. Old ceramic horse. Just look at it. This one, 800-year-old ceramic horse from China's Han Dynasty, doesn't exactly radiate elegance, but it definitely has personality. With wide eyes and a slightly off expression, it looks more like something from a Saturday morning cartoon than a solemn ancient artifact. The horse now sits in the Sansing Dui Museum, dated to somewhere between 202 BCE and 220 CE. Despite the reactions it draws online, many comparing it to Donkey from Shrek, it's a genuine piece of Han Dynasty craftsmanship. Horses were deeply valued at the time. They played crucial roles in transportation, warfare, and even royal processions. But this one feels different. Not regal, not fierce, just oddly charming. Whether it was meant to be taken seriously or not, it's gotten people talking. And somehow, through the dust of 2 millennia, this little ceramic figure still manages to entertain. That's not nothing. Even in a world full of war chariots and emperor statues, sometimes it's the awkward little horse that steals the spotlight. Number 10. Timbuktu manuscripts. You don't expect hundreds of thousands of handwritten manuscripts to survive centuries of war, sand, and silence, but in Mali, they did. Tucked away in family homes, hidden in attics, buried beneath floorboards, the manuscripts of Timbuktu carried ancient knowledge long before the West thought Africa had any to offer. These pages cover everything: science, poetry, law, medicine, astronomy, theology. Some were written in Arabic, others in local languages are barely known outside Mali. They stretch from the 13th century to as recent as the early 20th, sparking endless arguments about where history ends and memory begins. Most of the world didn't even know they existed until conflict threatened to destroy them in 2012. That crisis turned into a rescue. Ordinary people risked everything to smuggle knowledge out of burning towns, one fragile page at a time. Now they're slowly being digitized. It's not for trend, and it's not for profit. Just to remind the world what Africa never forgot, it's always had its own libraries. Number 9. Viking Thor Sits Hammer Amulet. In October 2022, during the development of a housing site in Isby, something unexpected turned up in the dirt, barely an inch long and shaped like a miniature hammer. The artifact is instantly recognizable to anyone who knows Norse mythology. It's Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. Made of lead and dating back to the 10th century, this amulet is the first of its kind ever found in Holland province. There's a small hole at the top, likely used to thread a cord so it could be worn around the neck, something common among Viking-era believers who thought these charms held protective powers. While similar hammers have turned up across Russia, the UK, and the Baltic regions, finding one here in Sweden is rare. Even more intriguing is the timing, a period when Norse traditions were slowly being replaced by Christianity. Whoever owned this piece clearly wasn't ready to give up on the old gods just yet, and wore that belief close to their chest. Number 8. Terracotta whistle in a child sip's grave. In the ancient coastal town of Assos, Turkey, archaeologists made a small but deeply personal discovery in October 2022, a terracotta whistle, carefully buried alongside a child. The whistle, shaped like a bird, dates back to the Roman era and is still in excellent condition after nearly 2,000 years. It's delicate, clearly made for small hands, and the placement of it in a grave suggests it wasn't just a toy, it meant something. Maybe comfort, maybe remembrance, maybe just the last thing the child held before the end. The discovery was made on the grounds of the old Asma Church, a site where numerous child burials have been found. Other similar whistles have turned up here before, leading historians to wonder if they were common playthings, or if they held symbolic weight in burial rituals. Though no one's dared to play it, the whistle looks like it would still work today, an eerie echo from a child's world that ended far too soon. Number 7. Ancient Roman refrigerator. Not all great discoveries come wrapped in gold. In Bulgaria, inside the Roman fortress of Nove, archaeologists unearthed something far more humble, a refrigerator. Built around the year 86 AD, it's basically a ceramic-lined pit beneath the floor, used to store food and keep it cool. It's not the kind of fridge we picture today. No metal doors, no humming electricity, but it worked. Submerged in the ground and sealed with a ceramic bowl on top, it protected perishable goods from heat and pests in a world without iceboxes. What makes this find so interesting isn't the technology itself, it's the way it quietly reveals Roman life. The need to keep things fresh. The daily logistics behind fortress life. The solutions they came up with long before plugs and power. It might not dazzle in a museum case, but it's a solid reminder that innovation isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's just about getting through the day a little smarter than yesterday. Number 6. Preserved Stone Age axe with handle. In 2014, during prep work for a new train line on the Danish island of Lolland, archaeologists found something incredible, an axe that had no business surviving 5.5 millennia. Most Stone Age tools are found as bare stone heads, the wooden parts long decayed. But this one, still intact. It was buried deep in ancient seabed clay near Rodbyhaven, where low oxygen levels preserved not just the stone blade, but also its original wooden handle. That almost never happens. Around the site, they also found wooden stakes, paddles, and bows, hinting that this place may have once been a ritual dumping ground. Many believe such items were thrown into the sea as votive offerings. The axe itself was likely a tool first used to carve wood, clear land, and build early settlements, but it could have doubled as a weapon when needed. It's not flashy, but it's real. It tells a story of work, of survival, and of how sometimes the earth buried things for too long. Number 5. Roman cornu mouthpiece. At Vindolanda, one of Britain's richest Roman-era sites, archaeologists came across something rare, a cornu mouthpiece buried beneath the floor of what was once a workshop. The cornu, a long, curved horn used in military formations, was more than just an instrument, it was a communication tool in war. This copper alloy mouthpiece dates back to somewhere between 120 and 128 AD, during a time when Roman forts were a network of discipline and order across northern Britain. The cornu player, known as a cornucin, would means commands into blasts of music, cutting through the noise of battle so Roman troops could move as one. We've seen cornus in ancient art and sculptures. Trajan's column in Rome shows them clearly, but physical pieces are almost never found. Vindolanda has had 9 different forts stacked on top of each other through centuries of use, making every excavation a layered puzzle. This fragment might be small, but it connects directly to the sounds, the structure, and the strategy of a Roman army in motion. What do you think about it? Let us know. All right, now let's talk about number 4, the elephant clock. This wasn't built to tell time. It was built to show off what human mind could do when imagination had no leash. Al-Jazari didn't just create a water-powered clock in the 1200s. He built a 22-foot beast dressed as an elephant, packed with dragons, birds, serpents, and scribes, all working in perfect sequence. It wasn't random. Every element had meaning. Cultures from China to India to the Islamic world merged into one machine that marked the passing of time with clinking bowls and mechanical puppets. Inside the belly, a clever system of buckets, strings, and balance. As the water slowly tipped, it pulled gears into motion, causing a small golden ball to roll from a serpent's mouth. That was the signal, another half hour gone. The original is long lost, but detailed drawings and replicas still survive. Not one part of it was necessary. And that's the point. It was built to say we're not just solving problems, we're inventing art out of math. Number 3. Iberian horseman statue. Long before Spain was Spain, someone carved a warrior into stone and raised him over a tomb in Lancia. His short tunic, his belt, his posture on the horse, they all point to status. Aristocrat, fighter, someone who stood above others, at least for a time. He didn't stay untouched. The statue, found in 1982, is scarred, deliberately. A broken jaw, spear wounds that weren't from war, but anger. Experts think the damage came nearly a century after it was made, during a rebellion. The people turned on the symbols of power, and this stone rider took the hit, that moment still frozen in him. Not in words, not in legend, just stone. You don't need context to feel what happened. Today he's on display in a museum in Albacete. No name, no plaque with a heroic tale. Just a rider with a fractured face and a story that only surfaces when you really stop and look. Number 2, Bronze Age chariot toy. Toys usually don't survive time, but this one did, in a child's grave in Sogmatar. Buried for nearly 5,000 years, a miniature chariot lay beside a bird-carved rattle. No rust, no splinters, just quiet craftsmanship from an age we barely understand. The wheel's design is the part that made archaeologists pause. It wasn't primitive, not a solid wooden disc like we thought was standard back then. This one hinted at something lighter, smarter. It bent the timeline of how early people thought about movement and design. This wasn't some throwaway plaything. It was handmade, likely for a child from a wealthy or noble family, meant to bring joy, not ceremony. And yet, here it was, placed with care in a grave as if it mattered more than anything else. Sometimes, it's not gold or weapons that flip our understanding of history. It's a toy, small enough to fit in a palm, whispering that we still don't know the full story of our oldest children. Number 1. Stone and copper coil artifact. It's not the shape that gets you, it's the detail. A smooth stone, fused with copper wire in a way that shouldn't exist, sitting untouched in the Kosovo mountains until Ismet Smeli picked it up on a walk in 2017. He didn't hammer it open. He didn't polish it up for show, just looked. Carved bands spiraled the surface, like insulation coils. On the back, 4 perfect circles, symmetrical and deliberate. Every part of it said design, not accident. Testing put it at 20,000 years old. That's not a number anyone in archaeology wants to deal with when the object looks like a power component. A transformer, some said. A hoax, others claimed. Ismet never sent it for further analysis. He didn't trust the system to give it back. So it sits where he keeps it, unclassified, unexplained, but not forgotten. It's a piece of something we don't have a name for yet and maybe never will. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.